Thank you. All right, I'm going to go through our agenda. Most of it is dedicated to hearing from you. So first, welcome and go through our guidelines that we use at the CAN neighborhood gatherings. Mostly the same here, just respect each other, listen when somebody else is speaking. We'll try to have one conversation at a time, keep that focused. Seek common ground is good. Share the space, so basically give other people an opportunity to contribute. Assume good intentions is a great one. In this one for land use, I add a suggestion. If you are bringing a fact or an assertion of some kind, really would appreciate if you tell us how you know that. And it does not have to be citing paragraph 2, page 47 of a book, right? Like I read it in the New York Times. My neighbor told me that. Something like that's helpful. And then I am going to ask for a little bit of participation, just hand raise, not any kind of official vote. Don't feel obligated to do that. You are welcome to be here whether or not you want to raise your hand and vote or whether you want to make a comment. All right, and the people we have here tonight kind of as our panel, but really it is a discussion with all of you. I'm Zach Powers. I'm the Transportation and Land Use Committee Chair for the Neighborhood Association in Cully Association of Neighbors. I'm not on the board. I don't vote on the board, but we do have a board member here, Aaron, our board chair for CAN. And then we have Maya Spencer from Portland Parks and Recreation. Maya is a community engagement coordinator, and we have Zeph Wagner from the Bureau of Transportation. He's a senior transportation planner. Thank you for being here. So they are here to answer questions from an expert perspective or on behalf of the city. All right, and I'll just do that.
Real quick. Just some housekeeping real quick.
Sure.
Bathroom is just right across the hall.
Thank you.
We are recording this, but faces are not shown, just anyone who steps up here. And then this will later be on our YouTube channel. And but audio is definitely being recorded. And for those online, the slides are in the chat area. You can click on that and you should be able to see our slides that we're going through. We can't really see it through this projection, unfortunately. I might figure out a way to do that actually. So yeah, other than that, plug for Cully Association Neighbors. If you're a Cully resident, please go to our website, sign up for our newsletter. We're a brand new board, full board, and we're doing more things like this for the community, and we can always use more neighbors to be a part of it. So yeah, take it away.
All right. And I'm just going to do a brief overview, make sure that we have the same facts about what we're talking about here. So we are talking about Sacajawea Park. Dog Park is here. This Head Start School is down here. Right now on Northeast Alberta Street, just east of 73rd, there's a locked gate that Parks maintains, and the gate is there so that maintenance vehicles can get in and out of the park, but nobody else goes through there right now. So what we're talking about tonight is getting your input, community feedback on whether parks should modify the gate so that bikes and pedestrians can go through. So I had a survey. Some of you, if you came to this because of the email, may have seen that. Just a couple people confused, thinking that the discussion was about opening the gate entirely so that cars could go through it, and that's not under consideration. So only maintenance vehicles can go through, motorized vehicles. Otherwise, we're talking about opening it to pedestrians and bikes. And this is what it looks like right now from 73rd Street. That is a gravel street, and it is the property owner's responsibility to maintain it, but it is a public right-of-way. So that's city right-of-way leading up to a city-owned gate into the park. But it is, of course, private property on this side. And then some of the blackberries and other plants there are on city land. There's a little bit of area that's essentially, Zeph described it as head-in parking, that's city property, but then it's very quickly private property again. And then wanted to show, so one of the reasons, or the reason that I contacted Parks and brought this topic, doing the community feedback, it was mostly input from people who bike through Cully. So not all people who live in Cully, Sumner, Roseway, others would contact the neighborhood association, just because if you live in that part of the neighborhood around Sacajawea Park, the east-west bike routes are pretty poor. This is Lombard Street with high speed limit and just paint. And then Prescott Street is the other one that has no bike facilities. So there is a new bikeway that goes east-west in Cully, the Mason Skidmore Greenway. But if you were just trying to go across the park, you have to do a 1 mile loop out of your way to use that and still have to cross Prescott. So Wanted to show that just because that was the most common input that came to the neighborhood association to start the topic. We've got lots of others since then. Lots of other input. All right. So to start with, and again, don't feel obligated, but would love to know just at the beginning of the meeting whether you support or oppose opening the gate or don't know. So I'm just asking for a hand raise. We'll have public comments pretty soon after this. So if you're willing to share, if you came here to support opening the gate, you would like that to be an open round. Okay. Thank you. And if you came to oppose opening the gate, you'd like it to remain closed. Okay. And if you're not sure one way or the other, you would like more information, don't know. Okay, thanks. That's great.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Why is the gate currently locked?
Oh, sure. Actually, well, all right. The gate has always been locked. That was private property before it became a park, and the fence and the gate was already there. And then the more recent history, and Maya, you can check me on it if there's anything that I get that's off here, but the city went through a similar public feedback process in do you know if it was 2013 or 2014?
I don't know the exact
Something
year.
like
Yeah.
Okay. At
Some
the
time
time,
ago.
well, Steve may know.
I don't know about
Okay.
that, but I know that, like I discussed with you,
Yeah.
the gate has not always been there. That was a solid fence. It
Right.
was when the dog park came in that they put the gate in for maintenance access, because originally it was a solid fence because of crime, and it acted as a buffer.
Got it. Solid fence. Yes, because it was the last public feedback process was at the time that the city opened the dog park. Yes. So went through a public feedback process and got some negative feedback. And some of that we know has changed. One of the parties that opposed opening the gate to bikes and pedestrians then was the Sacajawea Head Start School. And now the principal there supports it. So it seems like things have changed, but Steve is right. It was a solid fence. Since the gate has been there for maintenance vehicles, it has always been locked. And then last feedback process is about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Good question.
And I think we put in the dog park, I want to say maybe around 2009,
Okay.
give or take, 2010 maybe. Yeah.
Thanks.
But the entrance, the public entrance has always been on that southeast corner.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah, with the main park sign that you kind of drive up to. Yeah, just past the school.
Thanks. And then Aaron, I don't know if it'll work with the CASP, but that's a link to the survey results. So this is what I've collected through the survey that I linked in email. And I haven't checked it in the last couple hours, so don't know what it'll say, but let's see if that shares. Did it go to a different tab?
Oh, this is great. We're learning cast though. This is great. I did not know this. Good thing.
If that's too hard, we can look at it later.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's. Not sure, but
And Aaron, I mean,
I know what you meant.
Zach.
Yes.
I have a request of everyone, and it's that when we speak, we introduce ourselves if we feel like it, if we're and where we live, just to get a sense. And so I'm Denny Karras, and I live on Alberta, almost to 72nd.
And now is when, because like I said, I wanted to dedicate most of the meeting to public comment. So we can do that now. So there are enough people here that if everybody speaks, we'll have to keep it to, a couple minutes per person. But again, don't feel obligated to speak, and would appreciate if you could use the microphone. So it's up to you. You can come up here and stand in front of everybody, or I can bring the other microphone to you. Just depends on how you prefer to speak. So anybody would like to go first and tell us, share comments, ask questions of the neighborhood association or of Maya and Zach.
Yeah, to start.
Great. And would you like to have the microphone to you, or you want to come up?
there you go, Zach.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Sorry, false start. Okay. Oh, that's more responses than we had. And Aaron, you can see like most of them are yes, I support, but could you hover over the red just to see how many are opposed or how many are neither? Okay. The 3 out of the 65 opposed, and then we had 1 neither support nor opposed. So I think that one with the concern was letting cars into the park. Yes.
How many people did the survey go to?
The survey went to, unclear, it is definitely not a political poll grade one where I can give you an accuracy, but generally it went to about 500 people. Typically receive the canned email newsletter. That was the main channel. I delivered flyers. There's probably some crossover people to every property within 550 feet of the park. And then some people shared it otherwise. So confidently, probably 500 people. Maybe it went to more than that.
Okay, it's
Good
not like
question.
Cully, it's the surrounding neighborhood. 500 is a good data set. 65 response is not great for 500 people. We'd
Yeah.
like to see 100,
Sure.
but let's start there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good question. Okay, now let's get to your comment.
Thank you, everyone. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, there you go.
We work together. And
Yeah, you got this. Whatever you're doing.
yeah, there. There we go. So, I'm a little nervous here, with a big crowd like this. So, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Brent Maxon, and I appreciate the efforts of the Collie Association and neighbors at Portland Parks Recreation to engage the community in this discussion, discussing the proposal to open the lock gate, providing access to Sacajawea Park from the west side. I'd like to respectfully express my opposition to opening this gate. I want to begin by acknowledging that those who support opening the gate are not wrong for wanting a greater convenience and access. We all care about our neighborhood, and we all want public spaces that are safe, welcoming, and accessible. However, I believe that before making a permanent change, we must carefully consider who benefits, who may be impacted, and whether the change is truly necessary. My greatest concern is for the residents who live closest to the proposed access point. Steve right there, as well as the neighbors that couldn't attend, but I have a lock with them. And to propose access point, particularly Stephen and Nelda Prost. Cheers. Who are now in their mid-80s. They have invested years of their lives in this neighborhood and deserve to enjoy their home and surroundings with a sense of peace, security, and predictability. Also, any decisions that increase activity near their property should be made only after careful consideration of the potential impacts on their quality of life. I'm also concerned about preserving the current character and successful use of this section of Sacajawea Park. From my observations, this area is heavily utilized by responsible dog owners from the neighborhood, as well as travelers passing through Portland who need a safe and secure place to exercise their dogs. The existing arrangement appears to work well and serves an important function within the community. In speaking with the current park user who regularly brings her dogs to the park, she expressed concern that opening the gate to bicycle traffic could negatively impact the way the park is currently used. Her opinion is that increased bicycle traffic may create conflicts between cyclists, dogs, and dog owners, reducing the safety and enjoyment of a space that is presently functioning very well. This raises an important question. Has Portland Parks and Recreation conducted any study, survey, or analysis of the current users of this section of the park? Has the city gathered input from the dog owners who use this park on a regular basis? Has the city evaluated how increased bicycle and pedestrian traffic might affect the existing use of the area? Has there been any analysis of whether the benefits of opening the gate outweigh the potential impacts on these when already used and enjoying the space? Before changing something that appears to be working, I believe that these questions deserve answers. Another concern is the rationale behind the proposal itself. From what I understand, one of the primary benefits cited is convenience. Some owners, some users would have a shorter route to access the park and would no longer need to travel around existing barriers. While I understand that prospective convenience alone should not be a deciding factor. Many of us walk extra blocks to reach parks, schools, stores, and other destinations. The fact that a route may be longer does not necessarily mean that a new access point should be created, particularly when there are legitimate concerns from nearby residents and existing park users. I'm also concerned about public safety and park stewardship. Like many apartment residents, I've observed individuals traveling to neighborhoods who appear to be severely impaired, struggling with substance addiction, experiencing mental health crisis. Whether these challenges stem from substance abuse, mental illness, or both, Portland continues to face significant issues related to public disorder and the management of public spaces. Opening an additional access point may increase activity in an area that is currently more controlled and predictable. While no one can predict exactly what will occur, I believe it is reasonable to ask what safeguards will be in place to address should they arise. I'm thinking about this man here, this 85-year-old man.
And Brent, you've taken about 5 minutes so far. How much longer do you have? I just need to make sure other people get at least a chance to speak.
Oh, good, 'cause I got a couple.
Sorry, you got what?
Almost done.
Okay.
For that reason, I believe the burden should be on the city to clearly demonstrate that there is a substantial public benefit, that current users have been consulted, that nearby residents have been heard, and any potential impacts have been thoughtfully evaluated. In closing, I support our parks. I support reasonable public access. I support walkable neighborhoods and thoughtful planning. But I also believe the views of longtime residents, elderly neighbors, and the current users of this park deserve significant consideration before a permanent change is made. Sometimes preserving what is already working well is the most responsible decision. I respectfully ask Portland Parks and Recreation and neighborhood leaders to proceed cautiously, fully evaluate the impacts on current park users, nearby residents, and demonstrate a clear public need before opening this gate. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration. I also supplied a list of people in the neighborhood and long-term residents with their phone number and address that oppose the gate. That exceed your survey here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Good job.
Yes. Would you like the microphone to you there? Or you want to come
I
on
said
in?
you're not what to be.
Okay, I'll bring it over. 1 moment.
Thank you.
What was that?
He chose to leave. Oh, he didn't.
Oh.
He's so many times, I'm looking at the.
Oh, that's so. What's happening?
This is opinion. We need to stay focused on the content.
Check.
We're
Yes.
talking about somebody's personal behaviors. They chose to leave, they can leave. And our judgment on that should not be passed in this space.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay. My name is Morgan Rapolsky. This is my partner Sam. We live across 82nd and Sumner and 80th and Morgan Pioneers. So we are here. Unfortunately, we do have to leave in a couple of minutes. It's not because we don't want to hear everybody else, but we were here just to show strength in numbers. Sam is a regular bike commuter. His daily transportation to and from work is across the park. And I'm also a regular user. I agree with Brent that it needs to be a thoughtful process that considers all of the users of the park, but unfortunately, I disagree that all users are currently being served. The bike options simply are not safe currently, the alternatives. Lombard and Prescott are not safe options for all people. I agree, maybe some people feel comfortable on Prescott, maybe some people feel comfortable on Lombard, but if we're talking about the safety and comfort of all users, it's just simply not serving everybody right now. I would be open to alternatives if PBOT and parks would be interested in other alternatives for a path through the park that maybe mitigated bike and dog and pedestrian traffic. But currently, as it stands with the increased number of bike commuters, the increased number of bike commuters in these neighborhoods, it's simply not working. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm happy
Yeah,
to
okay.
riff on that. Also representing the Sumner neighborhood as are these two, not anonymously now. On Saturday, I conducted what is a unofficial transportation study of Sumner, which I've been doing since I was the LUTOP representative for the neighborhood in like 2017. Close to my heart, took the PBOT class, loved it, learned a lot. Portland's ambitions to connect bikeways and provide access is extremely admirable. Our neighborhood is not connected at all. Now, is this the solution? I don't know. Honestly, I was picturing benefiting from the wide school paved access that we could continue a greenway from 72nd and Alberta, because that access is beautiful and wonderful and safe, right? I think what Brent is emphasizing, and I do work with him, I did not know he was going to be here. I know he's a neighbor. What was I saying? He's emphasizing safety. And a woman in our neighborhood, Janelle Graham, who's not here, currently top member, she has a little kid. She's interested in safe routes to school, safe routes for walking. Sumner has nothing. You and Coley, please appreciate what you've got. Sumner has 0 bikeways, 0 safe walking, 0 sidewalks, very small fraction of sidewalks. Bad lighting, crime, blah, blah, blah. I think something I noted here is like, is crime in East Portland, is it at a tipping point or an acceptable point that we could provide additional access here, right, on Alberta? Or does it make more sense somewhere else? My transportation friend, and I'm just gonna say her name, Holly Quaren, she consults with the city on transportation, took the master's class at PSU. She's looking at Prescott. It is wide enough for a bike lane. Is it safe yet? Absolutely not. Could it be? Maybe. Is there an alternative? Lombard? No. That's not happening for a bike lane. 77th, I enjoy that. Alberta is great on the other side of the park, and you've got a road there. So I guess my ultimate point is, or question, is this the only option for access for bikes and pedestrian? Has there been a greenway considered? What is the viability of Prescott as a bike thoroughfare? And please remember Sumner in your thoughts, because we need something, and Cully's got a lot.
Yeah, before you go,
Sure.
you mentioned, I'd just like to investigate one point. You were talking about crime and a
Yeah.
tipping point
Yeah.
with access. Could you explain a little bit more? Do you have a concern there, or
Well,
what do you mean? about it?
Sure.
Yeah,
East
yeah.
Portland is high crime. There are data studies. I was advised by Holly to email a guy named Timur, someone, and said he might have the data that you're looking for, describing intersections of concern, high crime areas. Is this a high crime area? Because when we grant access to people, one, we're granting access to the good people that want to do good things. We're also granting access to people who have less than savory ambitions and intentions, and so tense. I'm just wondering if the crime at this point in town is safe enough to provide this kind of access. And I think that's kind of what Brent was hinting at. And I'm not advocating for his point. It's just, how many cars and sirens do we hear in the neighborhoods? And then what kind of, is this access going to be safe?
Okay, and then I guess the last question of how does opening the gate change crime? I heard this from I think two other people in the feedback, and it was a new thought to me. I'd never heard that concept before.
In full disclosure, I actually don't know about this gate that exists. I jog though to Coley Park. I run down Lombard. I come up 72nd. I jog through the school in non-school hours. So I jog through the park. I would love better access. I don't think I'm answering your question directly.
And if you don't want to, that's okay. But
No, say it again.
Was just wondering, how will opening the gate change crime? I guess in a way, like everything on both sides of the gate is accessible.
How will it change
publicly.
crime?
Yeah.
It will, I fully believe that Eyes on Crime helps deter it. It also provides access. So where are you going to have parking? As a resident of Sumner, we have unimproved streets that people like to park on. We have cul-de-sacs where people like to park. Vans and RVs, if they see something that looks accessible but not used at nighttime, that could be a parking lot. So it encourages people to hang out.
Okay.
And
No, thanks. I appreciate it. And Zeph, I see you may have more information. Also, you may know more about Prescott as a greenway.
Yeah, I was hoping to address some of the transportation questions there since you brought up some of the larger network. If you didn't hear earlier, I'm Zeph Wagner, Senior Transportation Planner at PBOT. I've been there 15 years. And I've kind of touched this issue many times over the years. This has come up, multiple times. And I've worked a lot on the 82nd Avenue corridor, Prescott, kind of the whole surrounding area. So I guess one piece of context is there is a long-term plan in the city. There's multiple long-term plans, like our transportation system plan, our bike plan, our pedestrian plan, that all say that we should have some kind of east-west connection through this area, because it's one of the longest gaps with no east-west connections for pedestrians or bikes or traffic, anybody, between Lombard and Prescott. There's these really long blocks, and really kind of when people ask what the benefit is of the connection from a transportation perspective, this is kind of separate from the park perspective, but from a transportation perspective, just more connectivity is good. We think there's kind of a fairness issue of like you were saying about Sumner, but when you have neighborhoods that are isolated from each other, that you have to go way out of direction to get to, it does divide those neighborhoods. It kind of benefits people who can drive and can afford a car or drive all the time, and doesn't give people those other options to just walk through the park. It's always nice to walk through a park on your way somewhere or bike through a park. And so we have a plan, long term, we would like to have a neighborhood greenway. What we have right now is one of the most major neighborhood greenways. So it's kind of a good walking and biking route on a local street, all the way from really I-5. If you use Blandina and then Going Street and then Alberta, you can get all the way to 72nd Avenue. And then it just ends. It doesn't connect to anything. It just stops very abruptly. Then east of the park, we did the Alberta Street Local Improvement District many years ago, where that street, which used to be, from an unimproved street, got paved, got sidewalk added east of the park to 82nd Avenue. And so that created a great environment where we could have a neighborhood greenway someday with the speed bumps and the sharrows and traffic calming and things like that. Official walking and biking route. And then people might not know, but we're also working on a big project for 82nd Avenue. And we've just finished a whole bunch of improvements on 82nd Avenue. You're probably seeing a lot of crossings and new signals and things like that, paving. There's a second phase coming in the next few years, and that is planned to include a signalized crossing of 82nd Avenue at Alberta Street. right there at the convenience store. And
It exists, or, oh, a light.
an actual signal that would stop traffic. So instead of having to press a button and I think it has the blinky light right now, and hope that people will stop for you, it would be an actual, traffic will get a red light, you'll get to cross, it'll have a median through the middle, so it'll be right in and right out for cars going on Alberta, but with cutouts for bikes and pedestrians crossing. And then from there, you can get to the Sumner Sandlot near I-205, you can get through the Sumner neighborhood, and you can cut down to Sandy and cross the freeway. And so it's really like long-term, I see this, some kind of connection through the park feels like kind of a linchpin of connectivity in the area. What you said about Lombard is true. I actually collected data counts of bike usage on Lombard several years ago, and it was exactly it was exactly one.
Okay, yeah, me too. We're more often, but me too.
Yeah, but like on I think we collected counts for 3 days, and the average bike trips was 1 a day.
Riding every day, but the gate is closed. And there are more cyclists on Lombard every single day now.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
all of us are fearing for our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't see the same one. I see one that's like, oh yeah, my map said I could go through here and I couldn't. This was the only other time that I found. Or, like, yeah, I ride this when I have to. Or like, I didn't find any other way around it. And then I never see them again.
Yeah, and it's a really big concern
So-
because that's a state highway, so the city doesn't control it. I don't think there's any big hope for the state improving that bike lane or the traffic. And there was a cyclist who was hit and killed on near 42nd on Lombard years ago, and he was like new to town, just look for bike routes. Yeah, Google probably just told him to go there, and so we don't want to encourage people to have to rely on that. Prescott's a little bit better, but I have looked at a project to add bike lanes on Prescott. The big problem, it could happen someday. There'd be some benefits to it, but it would require removing all the parking, both sides of the street, which is really hard, for most neighborhoods and residents to stomach. We've done it before, but it's really tough to remove every single parking spot from a long stretch, and it wouldn't be worth doing unless we kind of went from all the way from 72nd or Colley Boulevard all the way to 102nd Avenue to really make a meaningful connection. And we'd like to do that someday, but I think that would be a pretty heavy lift, and it would require a lot of funding to make it more than just a painted bike lane and be that great. So yeah, but a caveat to all that is that the route doesn't necessarily need to be exactly this location. I think this discussion was really prompted by just like, can we open the gate and put up some bollard posts and just, see if people enjoy having that access. But that alone wouldn't make it a major walking or biking route. I think it would mainly be used by people who just want to go to the park. And some people would cut through walking or biking, but without paving that block of Alberta, without creating a paved path through the park, I don't think it would immediately become like some major route that tons and tons of people are going through. It would just give people an option and maybe see. The guy was talking about demand, studies of do people actually need this, but you can't show demand until something exists. And so, I guess what I'm thinking about is maybe could you pilot it? Could you test it out? If you just kind of did that small change, you could see how many people use it and whether these crime issues or parking issues emerge. I have talked to our parking folks at Peabody, and there are some things we could do to try to sign it no parking, but there'd be also some downsides to that for the residents because it also means you wouldn't be able to park on the street. There's also some physical things that could maybe be done to narrow the gravel street so that would dissuade people from parking there. But overall, I think there'd be some benefits Like, in my experience, most of the crime issues we have are on dead end streets, are on cul-de-sac streets. That's where people like to go. And so that's what it is right now. Opening up something up for through traffic does encourage a wider variety of people to use it, and tends to, people up to bad things tend to not want to be where just everyday people are going. So I think sometimes that, belief that it can attract crime, but it sometimes maybe, but often has the opposite effect. And then I guess the last thing is, if there are other routes, like, would be open to ideas. I don't know if Sacajawea Head Start is, if there's any opportunity for a connection there. I know they have concerns about during school hours, but really it would just be nice to have some kind of east-west connection. This is the most obvious route because it's the most direct. It's right in line with Alberta, but there are other places it could maybe go. So I guess the question is, would people like to do something right now that's like, try it out, test it out, or do you want to wait for kind of a bigger planning process and stuff, which to be clear, like, we don't have the resources to do at the moment. Like, the only thing that I think Parks has said is maybe they'd be able to just open up an entrance, but that's it.
Yeah.
I see some hands. Let's take some. Thank you. And Zeph, thanks. You covered a couple things. I was hoping to have you covered later. Great.
I'm Riley. I live on 77. I'm very much affected by
Yeah.
Sorry.
My name's Riley. I live on 77, so I'm very much affected by this.
What?
And Alberta.
Then, okay. I live on 7.
See you around. So I'm very much affected by the cutoff point. We're very isolated. I use a bicycle for all my transportation, and bus and train. I think just the brief thing I wanted to point out was, I think the first speaker talked about a permanent opening of the gate, and that came with it a lot of the worry about, if these negative effects were to happen, this is a permanent thing. But I think what's more important is it doesn't have to be permanent. As you were just saying, we can continue to talk about other routes, but this would have an immediate effect on the safety of cyclists passing through. Prescott is super dangerous. Lombard is even more. This can be a frugal, efficient solution for that now, as we think of other solutions. Doesn't have to be permanent.
You could have a sunset.
Possible, yeah.
Thanks, Riley. Did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're so lucky.
Please, let me bring the mic up for 1 second.
Can you help?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
I can talk really loud. I think it helps for people on Zoom
It does,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Whitney. I live on 57th at Prescott. I commute to basically the airport every morning. I'm often too late to make it through the Sacajawea gate. But by the time I've gotten there, there's no way for me to reroute without going to Lombard or to Prescott. And I will say we are so lucky that the Sacajawea or the Head Start folks let us use that access point at all, because it is hairy every morning. Parents dropping off kids running. Parents are already like harried. No, it's not good for anybody, but it's so much safer than the alternatives. And if we could just have a way to protect the kids, to protect the dogs, to protect the parents, like where pedestrians and cyclists are going through this other access point, I'd be so happy to watch out for dogs and dog walkers and people accessing that dog park. I think I'm able to do that on a bicycle way better than any car will ever watch out for me, even when I'm a pedestrian. So it's so good right now in the summertime when that school is closed, so we can access it all the time. The moment that that gate changes and it goes back to being school in session, the number of cyclists that I see commuting plummets, because it's just, there's not a safe way to do it. And as someone that rides year round and like watches the numbers fluctuate, it is fascinating to see. And I'd love to help participate in doing like another count of how many other cyclists are out there, and even like sitting at the Head Start gate and seeing what that's like, because that access point, so grateful for it. It's not good. And it does put bike versus pedestrian in a way that like an actual clear, like not having to swerve around other things access way. But bollards, sure, all of that, like make it so cars can get through, please. But the dance through that gate and wondering whether or not it's gonna be open, it's like, not good.
Wait, Steve, did you have a hand up? Or, Aaron, could you bring the mic over to Steve, please? Thank you.
So I'm the one that lives in the house next to the gate of Steve Prost. And it seems to be an emotionally charged subject that we're involved in here. I've lived there for 38 years. The driveway or the road that you see, I graveled and I've graveled it for 38 years. I buy the gravel and I take care of it. The reason that it's narrowed down is to reduce crime. Just yesterday, a van of 2 homeless guys came in. They used it for a few explicit words with me and told them have a good time, but they sat there for another 20 minutes. And what they were looking for was there a way that they think that they could park their car. But because I use that one cutout with a trailer and other things, it's already usable, or else they would be camping there right now. How I feel about it is, I look at it, I don't want to be self-serving. I appreciate what Brent said, and that was non-solicited, and I knew this morning that he was going to say that. And because today I noticed that there was a biker that came down, and I was out clipping on some of the blackberries that were overhanging into the road. And I saw he came down, and then he went north, then he turned around and he came back and went up around. And, you know, I have feelings for that, you know. And then another one right behind him. And then the other day I was down by Emmanuel Hospital for a doctor's appointment, and how the bikers, what they have to put up with, I understand that. But here's my issue. Between 73rd and 74th, I'm pretty mellow on that. But between 74th and 75th, I view that entirely different. It's kind of a bit two bags here. Between where I live, out front of where I live, I have it narrowed down to keep people out because there's no way to turn around. They've hit the dog park fence twice. They've taken out a post on my fence. They've hit a car, all kinds of things. And also the GPS, they can plug in GPS. They're coming from British Columbia and their dog wants to get out and run. They plug the GPS, or they'll take them from 82nd and Alberta, clear up Killingsworth, and down in front of there to a lock gate. And then you know what their attitude is there. So yes, there's that problem. There's the crime is the main concern that I have. Even now, I have needles, I have condoms, I have ladies' panties, I have all kinds of things that I find out behind my place. And that fence was put in there to keep crime separated. It was a buffer against crime because there was open pit, gravel pit, and mining, crushing of the rock. And there was crime there, and that's why it was put up. And since then, things have been pretty good. And I think that keeping it neat and clean has really reduced crime. By opening it, it will increase crime because it's a back door for people to come if they're on the run through the park. Also, I see individuals in the park that are eyeing to come through there, and they're not the best looking individuals that's doing it. And we're talking about crime at night, not crime during the day. We're talking about after hours when everybody's gone to sleep. That's where the crime and things takes place. So yes, I can see it being opened. On the other hand, what's going to happen with this, with increased crime is because it will come. I've been there long enough to know what reduces it and what encourages it. Keeping things clean, keep it tightly closed up, reduces it. The more you open things up, the more it increases.
Steve, could you say a little more about, you mentioned between 73rd and 74th. Are you talking about north of the park on maybe Rose Lawn?
No.
No.
73rd and 74th. That's where I live, right in there. That's where I
sorry.
travel the road.
Yep.
And I say I feel one way toward that because I
Yes.
have sympathetic feelings toward bikers.
Yeah.
But the other, going through the park, I have reservations on that because I know that it's going to feed crime this way is what's going to happen.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Aaron, we have a hand up.
I'm Marianne O'Leary. I live at 5256 Northeast 73rd. And I apologize, my notice said it started at 7. So if this has been covered or talked about, I apologize. I came in support of having the gate open during the school days because they have little kids that are runners, or, you know, they're excited or they want to be someplace. You have to have the gates closed because of safety for the kids. What that does is everybody on the west side, we've got to go all the way up to Prescott and then down. And it's not that it's that long of a walk, but it just cuts your access off. And regarding what Steve has said, you know, respectfully, there has to be parking enforcement and you know, his property respected. And but I really am in favor of the gate being opened for access and, you know, for dog walkers, bicyclists, not rum. But I just wanted to add my 2 cents to the picture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And for the record, anybody who wants to speak, you are welcome to repeat points that we've already talked about. That could totally be part of your comment. And thank you. Yes. Oh, Zeph, did you have something you wanted to?
Well, I just wanted to talk about some of the things I've asked about at PBOT as far as what kinds of things can be done on a street like this with other examples, because we have a lot of places around the city that are like this where there's a big park and the default is usually there's an entrance kind of wherever possible. This is a kind of an unusual situation, but we do have other cases of parks where there's a dead-end street to access a park, like the Skidmore Bluffs, if people know about that one. That is a paved street, so it's you know, a little easier in that sense, but they had a ton of problems years ago with people parking on this narrow street, blocking people in, parking on the cul-de-sac at the end and hanging out. And there were a lot of issues, and it's largely been addressed through we put up a lot of no parking signs, so the people on the street had to be okay with not being able to park there themselves, but they were willing to accept that. And we've recently hired more enforcement officers, and we used to do most of our enforcement downtown in the meter areas. Now it's a lot more kind of they go to a different part of town every day, where they kind of try to cover the whole city, and they'll also respond to people's calls. Obviously, some people will risk it, but they're risking getting ticketed or towed. So I was told there could be some possibility of putting, like at the entrance, no parking on this block. I noticed there's no dead end sign. And I think just in that other example, we put up a dead end basically dead end except pedestrian and bikes, and things like no park vehicle access, local access only, those kinds of things can really help. Because a lot of it is people getting confused. Like you said, Google will tell people to go down there and people get confused and they'll think they can park down there. So the main thing I think is getting the right kind of messaging right at the entrance, similar to what you put out there already, but supplementing that with some official city signage that can be enforced against. And just making it really clear that it's basically a driveway for cars accessing one property. And other than that, it's just people walking or biking to the park.
What other uses for?
Also, again, Maya Spencer, Portland Parks, I live in Woodlawns, not too far from here. Also, it's a maintenance entrance as well. So for Portland Parks, our maintenance staff want to make sure it maintains openness for them to get through. So they also had concerns about people parking there as well. So we want to keep it open. And I'll just add quickly, they're not in favor of fully just opening the gate as is because it's sized for a vehicle to get in right now. Obviously, it would either need bollards or their preference would even be like a smaller cutout that's more just sized for bikes and pedestrians because they've already had problems with cars entering on the other side of the park. So they want to keep cars out and also block any access for their maintenance vehicles to be able to get in when they need to service the park, bring in large things of wood chips, those kinds of things. So just wanted to make note of that. I guess while I have the mic, I'll say one quick thing. Just anecdotally, one thing we do hear that's great about having an off-leash area in the park is it tends to really actually help a lot with crime and safety because dog walkers are pretty dependable. If you have a dog, you're going to be out year round. You're going to be out in the dark, you're going to be out in the light. You're a pretty regular walker. There's folks that come in the morning, folks that come at night. When we actually moved the Mount Tabor dog area years ago down to, it's now on the southern end of the park. It's been there for quite a long time, but it's right next to Warner Pacific College. A lot more people started walking through Warner Pacific College at different hours of the day when their students were gone. And they said we had a lot less vandalism, a lot less car break-ins because of that additional foot traffic, eyes on the street. And again, it's year round. It's not just even like, yes, in summer, more people in the parks. It's like, no, dog owners are out there year round. And I do want to note too, that the dog area is not the whole park. As we all know, it's the fenced area. So dogs should still be on leash when they're outside of the dog park and in the rest of the park or in the school property. So that, also will help with safety as it is currently. No bike is given to speed through there unless you're on maybe a really good mountain bike or something, because it isn't a paved surface. So just want to know those things about safety and things like that. And I think having a positive activity draws people in more than a rock quarry in terms of positive activity. So just a couple points.
What about lighting? Can any kind of lighting be added?
Not at this time. Like that would be a pretty significant budget expense. It's something we can talk about and plan for. But that's usually pretty expensive. Just existing conduits and all that kind of thing, depending on what it would take to bring it in and where it would be if it's PWAT lighting or parks lighting and all those kinds of things. But always good considerations.
I've been riding through parks on my bike for 25 years and never hit a dog.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I'm Denny's neighbor over on 70th in Alberta. And so I mean, some of this kind of all started too, because I had seen, and again, I will say this is maybe not confirmed fact, but what I saw on the Cully Neighborhood Families Facebook was that a lot of people had been complaining for many years to, I believe, is it 311? I always get this confused, which one's that?
Yeah, 311. Yeah.
And I was just I talked with Susan and I was just like, screw it, let's do something here. And it's been something that's been frustrating me for years too, because I ride my kiddo down Prescott every day and I see other families riding on Prescott. And I am very hyper vigilant the whole time. And then I feel the peace of riding down Alberta when I can go through the park. And that means everything to me. So I appreciate everybody who's here, but I think one thing I'll note too, we met with Steve, and one thing that I tested out was if we could get it so cars didn't actually think that there's an entrance at the park over by his place. And so I reported it to Google, like 4 different routes. And last I checked, it doesn't route people there anymore, just within the last week.
It worked for me too. It routes to 75th now. So I don't know if you fixed Google, Stacey. I'm very impressed.
So just saying, I'm like
I would also
hopeful.
check Apple Maps too,
Okay,
because I've had to do both on other
I appreciate that.
projects, yeah.
So
Esther County. Like, sometimes
that
it's
made me
slow.
excited.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really what I've got. Thank you.
Yes. If you have some, the mic right behind you.
And Zach, real quick, just a time check. We're at 7:30 and
Oh, yes, I should do time check. Zeph and Maya have already covered some of the stuff that I planned to cover more in more of a structured way from 7:30 on, so we can extend the time at least 10 minutes for the public comment. But thanks, Aaron, for checking.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meg Potner, and I live in the Sumner neighborhood. And I spent a lot of time walking down Alberta through the park and then having to go around it. So the convenience aspect, you know, is meaningful to me. I think convenience is something worthy. It's not just like a nice to have. And at the same time, I hear from a lot of like old time Portlanders who are really pissed with what has been going on Division because it makes it inconvenient for them to turn left. So I find that there's a bit of a hypocrisy going on as far as that goes. But convenience is good here, but not good here. I'm going to make a plug for extending the Alberta Greenway through Sumner. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to know, is there still a plan to develop that area above and to the right of the dog park into housing? There was like something like,
The pit area.
no, it's not the pit. It's not to the pit. There was a sign up saying
Yeah.
this might happen. And I wondered, it would also include, I think, bringing 75th through. Anyway, I imagine that if that were to happen, that would change a lot of things. I don't know if it's still in the plans. I feel like I had a lot of things on my mind and most of them have gone out of my brain. I would love to see some bike lanes on Prescott. And when I hear we can't do it unless we extend it to 102nd, it's like the perfect is the enemy of the good. And that kind of an answer is why people get so aggravated with PBOT. Like, we can't do part of it, you know, anyway. Sorry, I'm not a very good public speaker. So those are some of my thoughts. I mean, I would love to see pedestrian and bike access, not the entire gate open, but like maybe over to the, when you're heading west, over to the left. I know that PBOT, I think it is, can do test things. They're going to test out a pedestrian plaza by the Fremont Garage for a few months to see if it works. Could we have a 3-month trial period with some temporary bollards to see if it increases crime, if it increases bike access, if it increases pedestrian access? Because we're talking about, well, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, and there's no proof until it actually happens, until we actually make like a trial run. Is a trial run possible?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. If you mind speaking up.
No. About that. I was gonna respond first to the other property. I would be curious if anybody knows the current status of it. I feel like for about the last 10 years, I've been hearing that there's a imminent major development that's gonna
I could take this
build
one.
those streets. Yeah.
Okay, yes, neighborhood land use guide. Yeah, we're talking about this odd shaped parcel here. That's all private property. So I don't know what we could look on Portland maps what the exact owner is, but it's a company called Ethos Development that's been proposing for a long time to turn it into housing. They've submitted a few different early assistance permits. So not yet, it is time to build, but here's my plan. Can you approve that? The last time I think was 2023. They changed their plan after the state of Oregon and Portland changed zoning code, basically. So changed the plan, but the plan, when I last saw it, I believe that was 2023. It has certainly been several years, was many housing units, and it did include some access into or toward the park as part of the plan. It's always hard to tell. So I haven't asked them in a long time, but typically developers don't care about talking to the neighborhood association unless they have to. It's not always true. So last time I checked, they weren't interested in speaking about it. But most projects like that went through an early assistance permit or some other process and then stopped, either ran out of money or planned for one financing climate and we're now in another one. So it's mostly that is just interest rates. Loan rates, that's what makes the difference. So could still happen, but I don't think there's any imminent plan. I'll check if there's a new permit activity, but unlikely.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is if that happens, I don't think even if he, changes the plan a little bit for the amount of units or density, I think it's very clear every iteration of it has included a new diagonal street there from the east side of the park along that diagonal, and then it would basically be 75th Avenue going, and it would connect to the neighborhood to the north. And then there'd be kind of a square block. There'd be a rose lawn and then a new street on the north edge of the park. And and then they would pave rose lawn over to 73rd. So it would be a significant improvement. It would create a new east-west connection, and PBOT, our position has been that we would like a direct connection east-west through the park, a more direct connection. But as a fallback, if we weren't able to pave that street or ever get a direct connection or open the gate, our hope would be that development would happen and then we could always route a greenway around. But it is a fair amount out of direction. A lot of people would still, be dissuaded from doing it or feel like, why am I going so far out of direction? And we have no idea when that development will happen. Like you said, these developments tend to kind of, they eventually get lucky and get the right financing environment, but it's not something we can count on. Hopefully it'll happen at some point. But that's also the reason why opening an entrance on the north end of the park is not really an option, because there's a private property in between the park and Roselawn Street. So that kind of limits our options. That's why really the Head Start and the end of Alberta Street are kind of about all there is as far as I can tell. As far as the pilot, maybe you can speak more to that. It is hard because you have to be actually willing to change something or remove it once it's in, which is difficult. I think the key is you have to have really clear metrics of why you would make the decision to keep it or not. So it would really have to be hammered out. What are we measuring and when are we deciding to keep it or not? Because otherwise people tend to kind of want it to stay once it's there. It's a little hard to remove it. On the other hand, I would say there is a basic fairness issue of just parks in the city typically have entrances all around it. And it's we don't usually like to have one, you happen to be on one side of the neighborhood, you have direct access to the park. You happen to be on the other, you don't. Imagine if Peninsula Park or Laurelhurst Park or, Pier Park, any of the big, awesome parks in the city. Imagine if Laurelhurst Park just had no access on one side, only on the other. People use that all the time to cut through. And that's true of any large park. It's very, it's inconvenient, but also it's kind of unfair to cut off one whole side of the neighborhood from a park.
It's also kind of a safety issue as well for folks inside the park too.
Yeah. So I think if
Going to add real quick.
this park had happened, it's like a historical accident that it doesn't. A typical park would just automatically have entrances.
Yeah, I was just going to add to having multiple exits inside the park can also be helpful for safety. I'm just thinking of a similar park that has a very kind of locked in by residential, you know, on all sides, but they do have multiple entry points luckily. And like there was a large grass fire one year where some kids are playing fireworks. And, you know, I just hate to think of something like that happening and folks, you know, not having to jump a fence or something instead. So safety goes kind of both ways in terms of access. Yeah, I see there's a couple of folks for here.
Yeah, apparently I saw you in the back too.
Hi, I'm Stefan Up. I live down 73rd here across from Roselawn, and I have just been ruminating on the upcoming Cully project with sidewalks and how that might affect this. Peabody, you're here. When is it happening? When is 73rd going to get its sidewalks? Because that's going to be a really big part of this. Can you answer that?
It will be over the next year or two. So hard to get an exact schedule,
Okay.
the surveying, but it will happen over the next year or two. So the PBOT promised that. So for anybody who doesn't know, he's talking about PBOT projects that are combined now: 70s Greenway Cully Connector and the Cully Street Improvement Project. PBOT had talked to the neighborhood about versions of street improvement for certainly more than a decade. So it seems like maybe it would never happen. The PBOT has a contract with a construction provider for that one. So it will happen now. I stopped giving updates to the neighborhood until that point. I learned my lesson, but that will happen now. So the construction for the overall project, that also includes water system improvements, will start this summer. But I can't give you an exact construction timeline. And I would love if that capital project manager would get back to me and come to a meeting like this.
Yeah, I think
she's not great about it.
If we figured out the 73rd sidewalk and the Alberta update, like that literally affects this.
Yeah, sure. So I can give you the timeline answer because I've talked to the right person at PBOT about that at least in the past couple months. But did you have a question for about?
It was that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
just what's been happening.
Okay. But yeah, sometime in the next 2 years there'll be a sidewalk. Okay.
Yeah, I emailed her too. Yeah.
Right.
Silence.
I have to, but Mimi Phillips. Yeah.
Wait, I'm not sure. Maybe she just.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the details.
Yes,
I know the
information
project
online.
is-
We can go for that.
I basically know what he knows, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm at 73rd and I guess Roselawn. I don't know, somewhere in between. I am, what I'm keep turning over in my head is that dead ends lead to more crime. And if we did open that up, again, I would love to see a trial, even a year-long trial, right? You want to see all the weather, all the climate, seasonal, how it works and whatnot. If we could also survey that aspect where you won't find needles, condoms, and underwear, right? Because there will be more traffic. As dog owners, we would be using it regularly, daily, if that would be great. And I also wonder if we do have the trial, if it's possible to install this sign that says dead end, pedestrian, bicyclist only access, if that could go hand in hand to make it very clear so that it would actually show the best results possible.
I'm Patrick, her husband. So just on 73rd here, a couple blocks. It sounds like there's a lot of support for the commuters by bicycle that would reach far beyond our actual Cully area. So it seems like it'd be a pretty significant impact for such a low barrier to entry for this project initially. But honestly, I'm here because I want to be able to access the dog park during the day. And right now it's Sacajawea, the school is cut off. I don't want people passing through there during the school day, putting those students at risk. I also don't have time to go all the way down to Prescott. I don't use the park during the day because of this lack of access. So there would be more traffic in the park daily from, I can't be alone as far as the West Side residents that want to be able to access that park on an easier way. But I'm also curious, based on the safety thing that's brought up, do we have any data that there's more crime where there actually is an opening to the park already? Like, that feels like we have a pretty clear case of like, this is already exists in another location at the park. Is it a significant impact to those houses? Is it a problem? that would be addressed for this new place as well. Because I want this to be obviously done carefully, make sure all parties are taken care of. I don't want there to be a safety issue for the residents of that road as well. But I would think this would be a larger impact for the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, Steve, we pass the mic over to Steve, and then I'll respond to that after Steve has a chance.
Well, when I mentioned crime down there, crime takes place after dark to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't take place during the day. It's those times that it takes place. And not only that, but I spend, I don't know, I probably spend $300 for gravel plus disposing of homeless camps. I've disposed of a lot of stuff that comes in there, and it regularly comes in, and it normally comes in during the night.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, and to your point, I do like to bring facts to these meetings when I have them. And also to the point of attraction, right? Often in neighborhood issues, neighborhood meetings, and honestly extends all the way up to city politics. Often, we sometimes don't look outside of exactly that project or exactly where we live, but there is some academic research in whether opening up a new route through a neighborhood increases crime, and that's not an evidence-supported claim. So it doesn't mean it never happens anywhere. That's also not true. Couldn't tell you, but that's a common perception that is not well supported. So the closest counter argument is from a strain of research called, I think it was crime prevention through environmental design. This was new to me over the last 2 days, right? So I guess if I compare it to something, irrefutable fact in transportation and land use, if you slow down cars, you will make streets safer. Completely proven. So when I'm talking about community crime prevention through environmental design, didn't seem as strong to me and as clear. Every study finds the same conclusion on lowering speed limits. Doesn't seem true with a new route, but some studies find that opening a new route increases users and visibility and can have a slight effect of reducing crime. But again, not the strongest evidence. That's my personal opinion, not the strongest evidence I've ever seen. Oh, Zeph, if you want to respond, go ahead.
Yeah, just some perspective from the city, because Peabody has had to deal with a lot of the camping, RVs, abandoned vehicles, these kinds of things in public right of way. And the themes that emerge is the worst problems are usually along sort of industrial roads, like near Columbia Boulevard, places where people know there's just no adjacent residents to deal with, so they think they can park there. Sometimes there's like I said, there's often issues on dead end streets and really out of the way places. So I think what you're describing about like the people in the van kind of wanting to hang out and get up to no good, they're usually looking for a place that's out of the way, that people won't bother them, that there won't be a bunch of people walking by and seeing them. The only time that kind of wasn't true was in the years right after, during COVID and all of that. We started to see like camping along the I-205 path or on the Peninsula Crossing Trail. I know it was a big problem, but that was a real outlier. That was, I think, like the height of just people were kind of could do anything they wanted, and there just wasn't enforcement. But since then, in the Peninsula Crossing Trail case, I know parks put up gates with small openings for bikes and pedestrians, and they can open the gate for maintenance vehicles, and that seems to work really well. Enforcement has gone up a lot. Peabody has a very strong towing program, and derelict vehicles and RVs and things, like we do go out and we try to find people help and shelter, and if there's somebody there, it's like we don't just we try to help them, but we're not allowing it like unchecked the way we were several years ago. So I think there is some hangover effect from that still, that people are imagining that, like, because we have seen that happen recently, thinking that that's always the case, but much more often, like you're saying, getting more people going through, more eyes on the street, more activity tends to deter crime. We had a good example at 72nd and Woodstock. People are aware, there's a giant slip lane that sort of was there historically, is kind of out of the way, people avoided it, didn't have a lot of eyes on it, and there was so much crime happening there. There were people gathering to deal drugs, there were people actually like planning shootings and things like that. And it got turned into a plaza several years ago with painted street and outdoor seating, and was blocked to traffic. And there was a lot of concern from people that that would either not work or make it even worse. And it's been a huge success. It was studied, and the evidence was that it didn't even push the crime elsewhere in the neighborhood. It just went away, because that was like the place where people were gathering to plan activities, to plan robberies, to plan whatever they were doing, and where they would go to kind of escape sight and get away from the police and stuff. So I think when done right, when designed right and managed right, these things can be, can make things better, not worse.
Real quick, I'm gonna jump in real quick. It just says being a part of the Gully Association, and we've had neighborhood leaders come in from other neighborhoods, and to jump on that is that even the community coming together and cleaning up and helping out neighbors, and not a neighborhood watch, not anything like that. But one story was over in 9th and Alberta area, and I used to live over there myself. Definitely shootings 10 years ago or so, and that community member, they just got together and they just started hanging out. They would have a barbecue, and that evidence exists. And so, just as a community, thinking about that as this is a big decision that everybody's passionate about, that it would be maybe there's some of that responsibility that we could hold in keeping that a clean, safe place. If we want this to happen, if you oppose or if you kind of lead with that. And with that, maybe one more. We're at 7:50.
So I just want to say something really quick.
Denny, we had somebody ahead of you, and then we'll get to you, and then I have one question for Maya.
Thank you. Just really quick, I'm thinking about compromises of having possibly like 2 trials, right? Where the gate is completely open with ballots all day and night. And then another trial where the entrance is completely blocked certain hours of the night. If that's even possible, I'm not sure how the management that we would work, but just a possible thought if that could even be possible, just to see which would even be the best option, if this option is even viable to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Steve, I'm your neighbor. Okay, I just live on the west side of 72nd, just 3 houses in. And until today, I did not realize that you were having a problem and dealing with it alone. I am a professional volunteer in Cully, and I'm going to knock on your door tomorrow, and I'm going to help on an ongoing basis. Okay, you're not going to deal with that alone.
Appreciate that.
It's a great meeting outcome. Getting Denny on your side. Really good. That's something that you want. Okay, I'm mostly just ignoring the slides that I prepared on concerns because Zeph and Maya, you've already addressed almost all of them. But Maya, there's one. Actually, could you bring that over to Maya? I think for you, no. I think it'll be the least scary one. One other concern that we got even from people who responded to the survey and said that they support opening the gate, which was the vast majority of the people, was wondering about litter. Could parks put a trash can there, or if you have any evidence if, I don't know, if there would be more litter, and a couple people specifically mentioned dog bags because there's a dog. dog park, but I don't know, litter, anything you have to add on litter?
Litter, is there currently a garbage can in the dog area? There's two, okay. Okay, so I'd have to talk with our maintenance staff about adding any more, because that's already like a pretty large load, and the fact that there's two in a small park is pretty good. The other thing is we tend to not want to put garbage cans right near entrances, because sometimes people bring their household trash, unfortunately, and dump it there with the city's every other week garbage. And then our maintenance staff spend a lot of time picking up other people's garbage. So that would be a challenge, but so I think probably they want people to kind of try and use the existing garbage cans unless there's increased problems. What was the other thing you said? Litter.
It was kind of combined. They said dog poop specifically, but I think.
The bags was the other thing. There is a dog bag holder I noticed in the dog park area, and I think people bring their own. And so that's something that parks in the past, we don't provide bags anymore, just due to budget cuts and things like that. And so folks kind of adopt their dog area and bring their recycled bags from, I know I collect a ton of myself from every time I have a loaf of bread or whatever. People don't subscribe to the Oregonian anymore. You used to get those long skinny bags from the newspaper. But I think, yeah, we kind of are in a bring your own bag system. We do take your dog poop, so you're lucky in that way. Apparently the garbage, so yeah.
Okay, thanks. But I think if I heard it correctly, if we see if Parks opens the gate, we see a problem with litter near the gate, then contact Parks maybe.
Yeah, I can also share the neighborhood. We have a couple ways to report things. Portland.gov/parks/report. And that will actually take you through, like, is it a maintenance concern? Is it a safety thing? That will alert rangers if there's something. That's really helpful for us because that helps us collect data. So even if the rangers can't respond immediately, they can be like, oh, this park is getting a lot of calls and concerns, right? Like, it does help us know. If no one tells us, we don't know there's a problem unless our maintenance staff see it and come along in their rounds. The other one is, of course, I think it's been mentioned before, but 311, just memorize that number. That will get you anywhere in the city or county. They're amazing, incredible people, and will refer you to whatever your question is, whether it's parks or other city related things. So just call 311. That's the city's information referral number, and is very helpful. Otherwise, portland.gov/parks/report. If you have a park related issue, obviously that's a major, crime in process, call 911. I think we're all know that.
Thanks.
We just add, on a similar note for PBOT, our parking techs, we call them, are really great. There's a guy, Darren, who's Northeast Portland is kind of his area, and his entire full-time job is responding to issues around illegal parking or people parking in weird areas or abandoning their cars or things like that. And so, certainly if people see issues, if this happened and people were getting confused and or just thinking of convenience, like I'll drive all the way to the new entrance, park there at the end, that little narrow gravel street gets locked up. Call 311, that'll get routed to the parking tech. They're really responsive. They go out there. They often put, they can put warnings on the vehicles. They can ticket the vehicles. They can tow them, all that kind of stuff, escalating. And I was told that we could potentially put up signage. There's some pros and cons to that along the street. Alternatively, I love the idea of the volunteering. Like if some of the street already has kind of the overgrown vegetation, but that kind of makes it, I think, look like a place you could sort of hide back there. One thought I've had is that whole kind of, there's the overgrown area and then there's a little, what looks like some parking spots, and that's where the camping issues were that were mentioned. I don't know, throwing it out there, if that area was actually kind of landscaped or gardened or like something like that, it might actually look more like it's a pedestrian path with a garden next to it, but it's also the access for somebody's property, rather than right now it kind of does look like a place you could get back there and hide. So just having something really attractive and having something sponsored by the neighborhood and kind of local volunteers is always better than the city trying to do something. When we try to deal with these things, it's often like we put some boulders where people are camping and it looks really ugly and our tools are a little bit limited and, we can't maintain a bunch of landscaping and stuff like that. So a lot of it is like, needs to be community driven to make these types of things successful.
Thanks. It's Steve. I see we have.
Actually, just a real quick point, real quick, just to respect our online visitors. One question was just probably yes or no, but data with Cully Park about a one entrance kind of park, if that exists for prime. Yes. Next. So sounds like there's not much of a data for it, but
Yeah, I mean, that's very different because it's got a large, big street and parking lot, and so it's
kind of
kind of apples and
there.
oranges
Yeah.
compared.
yeah, Cully Park
Yeah.
needs, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
But I
time
do
for.
think that's an example where it's like, I mean, it might be worth talking to people on 72nd Avenue up there. Like, did that really make it worse or better? Because it used to be a dead end street to nothing. And maybe people liked that there weren't people walking back and forth, but it probably, I imagine it could have been a place that people.
It's also part of the
thought they
width of
could-
the parking lot, and that's
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
For parking lot. So maybe that changes things when it has a parking lot. So it doesn't sound like for online that there is actual data for it. So,
But that's,
close.
another example
Yeah.
of a park where the long-term plan is to have another entrance further east because it is kind of hard to get, it's similarly hard to get to from one side of the park. So, yeah.
Close this out.
I was just going to mention that I really like it the way that it is. I found that I have more control over it that way. Because in that one little indented spot, I park a trailer, I have a half a yard of gravel and a couple yards of bark in there that I use. So I appreciate that, but I would like to talk to you and have further communication with you with the best plan for this.
Yeah, and if it's working well how it is, I mean, you can always try it out and see if a problem emerges. I think that's a common theme here is a lot of this is hypothetical, wondering, supposition. It's hard to know without kind of trying something.
Yeah. Okay, well, we are just about at our time, which we have to respect for our hosts. So thank you, Maya and Zeph, for being here, and Aaron for fundraiser round. But thank you to Northeast Emergency Food Program for hosting us. For those in the space. What's
the next step?
The next, okay, so next up, we're gonna take one more unofficial vote, because I planned that, just to see if there's any change. Maya was here to collect feedback on behalf of parks. And then I am going to close the survey that I had and share the results, all the raw data with Maya. So the next steps are up to parks, really, to judge the community feedback, I think. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. So, just, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it sequel.
Sure, yeah, just.
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to, hear from the neighborhood and community and just want to thank you all for having such a great conversation about it in such a civil way. And everyone always asks me like, you work in Parks and Rec, is it like the TV show, so I'm feeling real Leslie Knope right now, but it's like, this is democracy. Like, this is actual, like, real democracy. We come together, we solve our problems. I just want to appreciate everyone collectively trying to solve a problem and think about everybody's needs. So, we'll take in the feedback. We'll hear what folks are saying. I don't know yet what the next steps will be. Part of it is just me reporting back to our planning department and then up to our leadership. But we're in a little bit of a transition. Our interim directors leaving at the end of the month, and we'll have a new interim director. So I can't guarantee it'll be a fast response. Yeah, and we're actually getting the PBOT deputy director as our interim director. So he'll be familiar with PBOT issues. So one of the steep learning curve, but we'll just continue to kind of have some conversations with the neighborhood and kind of see where we move forward and keep you updated.
Stacy, real quick, can this be offline?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll send in the petition to you as well. We have about 315 people who signed up, from even as far as the walk. So.
So a lot of people outside of.
There's a lot of untapped trees
Yeah.
we did not get to.
Okay, so to wrap up, well, I guess
Oh, go ahead.
reiterate
Yes,
what Maya said. Thank you all for coming and giving input. I think the vast majority of people here spoke on the mic, so thank you. That's great.
And let's thank Zach for facilitating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so to the end, I just like one more very unofficial, I know Maya mentioned democracy, not a binding vote, but a show of hands. Now that you've gone through the discussion, please raise your hand if you support opening the gate to bikes and pedestrians. Okay. Thank you, and raise your hand if you are opposed to opening the gate to bikes and pedestrians. I did not forget Brett, who raised his hand.
Yes.
Okay, and then raise your hand if you're neutral or unsure still at this point. Okay, all right. Thank you all very much for attending.
This is great.
Oh, Aaron, what do you have?
Just some help at the end, and also our newsletter will have probably, if we have another meeting, we'll have that updated, and then at the board, we will vote to support in a letter or oppose this later on down the street. So that's in our Cully Association. We'll put our name on that. And then if we could be just help with chairs, they just went in like 2 rows.
I have a,
you have a
yes.
picture? Yeah, they
I
kind of
guess-
face the wall. They split, face the
Yeah,
wall. That'd be a
like-
big help.
Like this and rows out from the community.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you
This
all
was great.
very much.
Yeah, great information.